Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Make sure you like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please rate this podcast 5 stars where applicable and leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
This is the presenter's opinion and the presenter's opinion only. The views expressed on this podcast do not represent the views or opinions of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association.
And welcome
For entertainment
back,
purposes only.
everybody. Episode 35, the pregame. I got Bill sitting next to me here. James is somewhere, and unfortunately, Josh didn't make it to Grand Rapids. But how's it going, Josh?
Going well. I pouted and cried and pouted some more over the last couple of days, but I guess I'll get over it. I already have myself a game plan for Reno, so that's a plus. We've got lots of class actions going on at my office with dollar signs behind them, so that's a beautiful thing. I don't have to go back to work until next Tuesday, the 22nd, so that's another beautiful thing. How are you guys doing out there and your travels to get there?
I'm doing well. I was actually going to come down to my parents' last night, but I was too tired, so I made the trek out this morning. Hit some couple traffic snags, no big deal, but I got here, just before 5:30? I think Bill and I rolled in roughly about the same time. James?
Yeah, I only had a 2.25 hour drive to get out here. Took time to stop at my parents' place and visit them for a little bit before I came over here because it was right on the way. Hung out, found where tables are and all the other interesting things of the National Convention, since this is my very first National Convention I've ever been to, and I'm a delegate. So I was going to go to Orlando, but I didn't have the funds to do that, being on table 2 and living paycheck to paycheck like a lot of people do. But all in all, it was a good week. Management has been working hard with me on making sure that our carriers are not getting harassed about the scans they're doing and things like that. She talks with me every day and lets me know what district management's sending down to her, because a lot of the stuff that they're harassing us about is coming straight from their district managers. So none of our carriers are being harassed in my office, at least. So that's a big plus on this. I love my postmaster. She's so great. But other than that, it was gearing up for this and coming down here for National Convention. Got a beautiful view of the river right now while I'm talking to you guys, and just sitting here enjoying the peace and quiet.
Bill, it's your turn.
Well, I had a little bit of a ride, a little more over 10 hours. I stopped to see James's parents, but they wouldn't let me in. So I think half of Ohio is under construction. And I did spot one hill in Ohio, but, they called that an overpass, so it doesn't count. Other than that, it was pleasant enough driving out here. I had good company with Liz Lightfoot, who's an old friend of mine. And, facilities are, as per usual for this facility. They're very nicely appointed, and the people are very helpful. And it's good to be off the road.
I concur. I had to go put up with my mom for about an hour and a half, 2 hours before I came up here. I couldn't get here fast enough. I love my mom, but yeah, I had to fix computer issues for her. So, James, what did your hot topic tonight? I know we took some questions. We'll get to those. And I know James had something he wanted to start off with.
So the biggest thing I wanted to start off with is this is our pre-game show for the National Convention. So a lot of people wonder what actually happens at a national convention. What is the process? How does it work? And what's so important about it for the union. So I'll leave it to you guys to answer the what is the national convention all about?
Oh, no, no, no,
Next,
no, 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 no. All right, I'll give you my lay of the national convention. Let's see. There's plenty of training seminars for you to learn about, OWCP, your retirement, healthcare, and everything else. The first actual business day would be Tuesday. And it's not really a business day because we're glad handing the postmaster general, the local postmaster, a senator, a mayor, the hotel director. So it's a wasted day to me. But they go through the glad handing that that they think they are required to do. I believe it's a total waste, but that's my
dog and
opinion.
pony show, basically.
Yes, it is. It is a dog and pony show. Then Wednesday you get down to actual business, and you get the nominations. I believe are coming up on Wednesday this year, right?
Yes.
And then you have business on Thursday, when you have your caucuses. Thursday night, where the candidates for the different positions on the board, get to walk around and take questions from the different groups, like SAC and some of the states are grouped together. Some of the states are large enough they don't have to be, but and then Friday we're back to work in the morning, and you're usually working on the resolutions and the appeals at the end of the day. We have the voting during the course of the day, and that'll determine the direction of this union for the next year. And ladies and gentlemen, I can't express to you how critical this election is to get this union and the craft back on the right path.
Agree.
Right. This election is going to be the board members that are involved in negotiations for our next contract that starts in February. So whoever we put in those positions is going to be responsible for presenting your resolutions to the management and also negotiating a way to better the craft overall. So you want to put in people who at this point are willing to fight for you and do what needs to be done, just like the UPS Teamsters did. We have the ability to make those negotiations happen if we just put the right people in that position. The
Okay.
process work. Does it have to go further up? Are these things already agreed on? We're talking about the resolutions that are being put forth at National Convention. Can you talk about the process of the resolutions moving through the system and coming here to the National Convention, and then what happens next?
All right. Briefly, the way a resolution works is you, as a member, come up with an idea that you think will better the craft as a whole. You write up a resolution saying that you want to make this change or add this or that, and you present it usually at your local meetings in the early mid-spring, and they get voted on there. And we're going to pretend everything gets approved, gets voted yes. From there, from your local meeting, it goes to the state convention. At the state convention, it gets discussed. There might be some tweaking to verbiage to improve it. And then it gets voted on. Well, I apologize. At state level and national level, with a resolution, they read it out. If nobody objects to it, it automatically passes. If someone objects to it, it goes under debate and then gets voted on individually. And that debate could be someone just wants clarification of the wording of what the intent is. So you have to object to it to ask your clarifying question. And once it gets voted on, if it's voted on yes and passes at the state level, it goes to the national convention. At the national convention, the same process. They just start reading them all off And as soon as the president hits the gavel, it's automatically passed. You have from the time they read it to the gavel hits to object. If no one objects, it automatically gets passed. And then if someone objects, again, there's debate back and forth, possibly clarification of verbiage. And then if it passes, this is what most people call our wish list. Our wish, and this is what we want the union to negotiate into our contract in the next contract. Come December, January, the union's going to take all of the past resolutions from the past five, I don't know how many years back they go. And that's what you typically supposedly take into negotiations and saying to the post office, this is what we want. And then they negotiate it. And if the post office agrees, it'll show up in some manner in the new tentative agreement.
To elaborate on that, at National Convention, you're gonna, if you object to the resolution, you're going to be able to have 2 minutes per person to discuss this resolution, up to 10 minutes in total time. Now, some people will try to cut that time down because they want to make this go faster than usual. Some will say they want to cut it down to a minute per person to discuss it. And some will say cut it down to 5 minutes overall, something like that. If it's an important issue and you're coming up on that 10-minute time, if people still want to talk, somebody can actually request to extend time, and the audience and the delegates that are in session can vote whether to extend the time or not. If they do not extend the time and time expires, that's it, then it gets voted on. So there's a whole process. There's a lot of rules and regulations involved in the processing of this, following Robert's Rules of Order. So if you're interested in understanding how this whole process works, it's very dry and boring, but Robert's Rules of Order is exactly how your union operates its meetings. So it'd be good if you want to be involved to familiarize yourself with those rules. But if discussion continues on it, it can go back and forth as long as needed, as long as people vote to extend the time. And sometimes it can be something that's very contentious that people want to really discuss. So they'll turn around and they'll extend the time and extend the time and extend the time until they feel people are repeating themselves, and then somebody will call it to vote and then go from there.
They will go up to the mic and they call for the question, which is the question of voting yay or nay on it.
Yep, they'll call the question. Bill, Kristen, you guys want to?
Well, also, you're at your state and national levels, you have resolution committees who sort through the resolutions passed up to them and make sure there's no duplicates, the wording's correct. And in our state, they have ones that they recommend and don't recommend, based on whatever reasons they come up with. But the resolution committee is the one's going to pass them up to the national level. And again, at the national level, their committee does the same process. They get rid of the duplicates, keep the ones with the better language. The verbiage is more correct in regards to the legal ramifications of the actual resolution, versus somebody who just put on there, well, I want, it spells out the specific articles to be corrected. And, you start off with, be as it is, the contract reads this, we want it to be it resolved that it's read this way instead. And that's how that process gets to the point where the delegates get to vote on those resolutions.
If your resolution fails at any step in the process, it doesn't mean that it's a bad resolution. It just may mean that it's worded in a way that people don't understand. So you can always resubmit your resolution for next year's convention. Don't think that your idea is a bad one. Just think that it needs some tweaking. Because I put one up for national last year that was 3 pages long, and it got voted down because it was quote unquote too wordy. I could have put it back up this year, but I was too focused on more important resolutions that actually really meant a lot to carriers themselves. So I put that one on the back burner. I'll probably submit it next year for national. So has there been any plans to raise the wage up in the new contract? Some states are having a hard time hiring with the rate per hour, same as McDonald's.
Contract negotiations won't start until February, so we won't know until after that what they actually put in.
Yes, and as it stands right now, the resolutions committee is still going over all the resolutions that have been sent in by all the states and territories. So unfortunately, we won't know what's in the resolutions until probably Tuesday or at the latest Wednesday. So until that time, we don't know what other states have put up, but I do know that there are some states that have probably put up wage increases. I know there's some states that put up getting rid of the table system, so that way everybody's on the same table. Some states put up for RCAs to go career, like the CCAs and the city side. At least that's from the information I've gleaned from several individuals in other states as well. You guys?
I have one that'll be up on the nationwide bidding that passed at state, so I will have a resolution up this week.
I think there's one out of Wisconsin also for the same thing. I believe I also heard someone put up for J routes to be included in formula calculations.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
interested.
then
We'll have
there's-
to wait until we get those packets, and that's what after everybody gets the packets, that's reading material at night, and you make your notes, and if you want to object, and you'll actually see people lined up at the microphone when it's time to do resolutions, getting ready to object to them ahead of time.
Object, Duschel, Pennsylvania.
And then what's that other one from, was it New Mexico? That young woman that
Yeah.
objected to everything he didn't?
Well, I objected to a lot of stuff in Michigan.
I think
I
James
think
is gonna be-
my presidents every time they were going on to the next resolution, my president I twitched and looked at me just to see if I was objecting.
James is
He
going to
just
have a
wasn't
chair
fast
as
enough
close
on the
to a
mic.
microphone as he can get.
I know on the one that was introduced as new business, the president literally, she already had the gavel moving as they were finishing reading it. No one could object to finish up. It was a good idea, but you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. Nope, not a
But
clue. Not
I-
a clue what you're saying.
I have one going up that passed at state to national for all carriers, regardless of table 1 or table 2, to get the full COLA payout. Because with this new COLA 40-hour route from table 1 step A to table 2 step 1 is $8,826.
$8,826 pay discrepancy between table 1 step 2 and table 1 step
No,
step 1.
Table 1 step A.
Oh wow.
And that's at a, everything in the contract says 40 hours a week, a 40-hour evaluation. So I use the 40-hour evaluation. I also included a table with showing the table 1 step A versus table 2 step 1, what the two salaries were from 2013, which was only about a little over $5,000 difference at that point, to 2021, November 2022, I think, was the most recent that I have on there. And then it also Google autodoc or automatically put a chart showing the variance rising. So whether or not they'll have that in the packet, I don't know.
Okay, moving on. Next.
So
Right.
after resolutions, what is the after the written resolutions that we have come out? What is the next order of business that the union takes on at National Convention?
Somewhere there's
Appeals.
constitution changes.
Yeah, constitution changes and resolutions are done kind
The Constitution
tandem.
changes happen first.
of, yep.
Those resolutions for Constitution changes, which are considered binding resolutions, come first. And then you have the non-binding resolutions, which are your contract resolutions, that come second. And then after those resolutions are up, the next thing that the union takes on at National Convention is new business.
No, isn't it the appeals first?
Yeah, new business is the last thing they do, which they usually,
appeals.
due to time,
Yeah, it's
put
the
in the
appeals,
middle
and then appeals, then new businesses at the end. Meanwhile, during
Yeah.
this whole day, you have elections going on in between everything. This is kind of like the filler of what we do. Why the tellers committees are
counting ballots.
counting ballots.
Oh.
And the difference between constitution changes and resolutions, other than them being binding or non-binding, is constitution changes actually get discussed, actually get presented with the Constitution Committee's recommendation or non-recommendation, and then it does get discussed and and then voted on. Where a resolution, if once it's read, if the gavel's struck, it's done, it's automatically passed.
Now, we did talk about appeals and the appeal process in another episode. But
In our
at
last episode, I believe.
in our last episode. And the appeals process for national, of course, is where the appeal actually gets heard. You guys want to talk about that a little bit and more since we talked about it last episode? Just give a brief summary.
Well, I know we're not going to have 84 of them this year.
True that.
I couldn't help myself.
But so the appeals process is basically asking for another look at something, whether it be a decision made by the board or a decision made by a state, because those can be appealed to the national as well. So that would be heard here as well. And then after appeals, we discussed that last episode, we are not going to go deep into it. You can listen to our previous podcast about that. After appeals, we go to, and what is new business? What is discussed during new business?
Well, new business can be anything from a resolution that already been discussed and removed for reconsideration to be rewritten better. So that can fall under new business there. You can also introduce a resolution. It'll be more likely non-binding because of the fact that it hasn't been passed, through the committees in regards to non-binding resolutions for contractual language, not for constitutional, but you basically are welcome to introduce it there for consideration. Doesn't mean it has the same weight or less weight as a resolution or resolution committee passed resolution by your state and national, but last minute things usually don't get voted on very favorably. But you do have the opportunity to rewrite one that you've removed for rewriting from the binding or non-binding aspect of the resolutions.
And resubmitting it and
Voting on it.
voting on it under
again.
new business.
Yes.
Yet there
Yeah.
has been constitutional things that have come up and have passed under new business. I know in Grapevine, one of our delegates out of Michigan passed a constitutional change under new business, and actually, to help carriers, especially when I think it was when it came to transferring their local units, if there was going to be an issue. It was something about, it was put in the national constitution. I don't have that in front of me, so I can't read it, but I do remember that one getting passed. I mean, things do pass if has merit to it. But yeah, a lot of times it's just reintroducing something that had to go back and be reworked during the resolution and process.
And during this whole process, they're also dealing with the elections of your officers. And this is the quintessential part of your national convention, is the election of the officers that'll lead you for the next year. Or 4 years, depending on the position you're running for. And that starts with the most important position in the union, and that is
President.
president.
Yes, election
The head
times go
honcho.
president, vice president, secretary treasurer, Department of Labor, Department of Steward Ops, and then your 4-year term for executive committee, because executive committee is a rotating 4 years. So you always have one every year, even though it's a different person, unless somebody steps up and runs for another position and they get elected to that position, then they have to declare that they resign, and that would be an instance to where you would have a second election for executive committee. But that's
just to fill out the term
Yes.
of that individual who promoted themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be a whatever number 1, 2, or 3 year unexpired term is what they'd be running for.
Yes.
And there are, for this convention so far, there are at least 2 people per position running. There will be an election for pretty much every single position that is up for election right now. And if I've heard the rumors right, and this is just a rumor, do not take it at all as fact, but I've heard that there may be room in the executive committeemen this year. So, but we don't know for sure. We'll find out when the elections come out.
Yep, and we'll find out who's running for what for sure on Wednesday.
Yeah. When they actually have the
But the
call for
nominations are open right up until voting time. So
yeah.
Yep, they close. They ask 3 times just before the election starts for each position if there are any other nominations.
Yeah, and this year,
Most
the
likely
only
you're
the only
not
real
gonna
change
have
is in
someone
the
pass.
caucus night, so we don't have the fiasco that we had last year. Because they were rescheduling caucus times right up to the start of caucus time.
yes, they were because of a late entry nomination.
And of course, according to the rules, the president presides over everything except the presidential election.
Yes.
When it's time for the presidential election, the vice president has to do the call-outs per the rules of order.
Yes.
Even though the Mr. Stutz has said that he is no longer running for president, it still has to be done by the vice president for that to be considered unbiased.
So being unbiased, I think that we ought to make sure that somebody is there to verify the counting of the ballots for the presidential, vice presidential, secretary, treasurer, for all
That
positions.
is your right to sit in.
We are entitled to that right to have somebody present to verify the counting.
And after all the ballots are counted and verified, the elections committee comes back and they actually announce the numbers to the audience as to who won the position.
And moving on.
Moving
All
on.
real quick question here. For the presidential election, The vice president proceeds over that. However, the tentatively the vice president is a candidate for that position. Who then
Then,
presides?
then it would fall to the secretary treasurer.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to, I wanted to clarify it for me and let our viewers know, well, listeners know.
Yes. So if the person who's supposed to preside over it is running for the position they're supposed to preside over, then they should be recused from that and taken to the next person in line per the Constitution, and that should be your secretary treasurer. After the elections are over with, then you have what?
You have the swearing in
After-
of the new board.
You know, swearing in of the new officers that take their positions.
Yes.
And then you have your closing afterwards,
Yep.
the retreat of the colors. And then that's the end of the National Convention.
Right. It's the retreat of the colors, and then they close the business session with the slap of the gavel, and everyone goes back to the room and passes out.
No, I won't be going back to my room. I'll be driving home because I have to work Saturday morning.
God bless you. I apologize.
I'll be going back to my room to celebrate.
Some people will be going next door to the bar and have a stiff drink after all the mental stress that they've gone through going through this national convention. Because if you've been to a state convention, national conventions are bigger. National conventions
What did I
are
say last
longer.
year?
And as I recall, 5 years ago when we were in Grand Rapids, we didn't get out until almost 9:30.
Yeah.
Between 9 and 9:30, when we
Last year beat that.
did last year beat
Yeah, I
that?
know.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
At state,
Yeah.
I don't
at state
remember.
conventions, you're getting done at about
Was it?
7:30, 8 o'clock at night. National convention, you're
Well-
done at 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock at night, depending on how
Well,
much business you have to deal with.
We get done at about 11, between 11 and 1 at our state convention. But
Get that. So we have
Go
a
for it,
comment
Kristen,
that
read
says
it.
there should be a podcast Friday night so we can celebrate on here with the new president.
Booyah!
If it's possible, if somebody wants to record it, I
Yeah,
could
re-
definitely tune in via mobile on my drive home.
We're
We'll have
gonna
to-
discuss options tonight after the show of what we're gonna do concerning this national convention and getting you guys information.
Yeah.
The biggest thing here is that we can't give too much information from the national convention because there are rules and regulations that we have to abide by when we're here. But we will try to figure out a way to get pertinent information to our audience members over what's going on in national convention because this is your union. You are entitled to this information. So we're going to do our best to figure out a way to pass on what we can.
It might be a drunken slurred speech Wednesday after banquet, but you never know.
We might
let
do a
us know
special
if you
maybe
guys want to
episode.
come.
Well, I hate to rain on everybody's parade, but once we get our packet with all the resolutions in there, that's when our homework starts.
Yes.
And that takes you
yeah.
into the wee hours of the night, into the next morning, through breakfast. It's 5 times what a state convention is in regards to resolutions and trying to, just
Well-
filter out the BS from the
I would say it's 50
meritorious
times
items.
because just envision whatever your state put forward and passed. Assume every other state had the same number that passed or more.
Well, that's why
And also,
the resolution committee throws out duplicates.
Well, they condensed them, but yeah.
that's the other thing of it is you're going to have the same percentage of passed and failed resolutions at the national level as you did at the state level. because some states are not going to agree with what another state put forward on a resolution. And if enough
Right.
states don't agree to it, then it's not going to pass. So that's the other aspect of it. You know, you have an entire nation of carriers that have all come down on Grand Rapids, Michigan this year to discuss what's going to happen to our jobs basically over the next 4 years, because these are the last resolutions before we go into contract negotiations. So these are going to probably be taken with a fine-tooth comb by a lot of people. I know for a fact that Bill, myself, Kristen, and probably a few other people that are here are probably going to all sit down in a room and discuss these resolutions together and go through them and try and figure out how we want this to be played out. So are you guys up for that too?
And I might have to have somebody asked to get me up to the microphone to speak on mine if needed once I read it and see what it says. Suspend the rules, that's what I was looking for. I had to think there for a moment. To suspend the rules so I could speak on my resolution if needed. So.
Well, you got multiple people here, including audience members, who probably would be more than willing to step up and do that for you. And if not, there's some people that will step up and speak on it on your behalf too.
And I want to give a shout out to the listener that stopped us at the corner when we were waiting to cross the street to James and I, when she said, "Hey, I recognize your voice." The look on James's face was precious. He's like, "Huh?" I want to say hi, but yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not used to running into fans like that. That's a new thing for me. I was flabbergasted, and I do appreciate a person taking the time to actually stop and say hi to us. That was really, really kind of you. And I'm glad you're a listener.
You're such a puppy
Share us
dog.
with your friends. Yeah, if you see us here and you recognize Kristen's voice, say hi. We don't bite unless it's a meal.
unless you ask.
I love my
nicely.
food. I love my food.
I might
Kristen
nibble
found
a
out,
little.
oh, that cake was really good.
Is there any other questions that were on there we can touch base on?
Josh, you got any? I didn't see anything else that pertained to Nashville Convention, but we could always talk about those other parts.
I didn't notice anything else throughout the day, but then again, I had other things going on a little while ago, so
There was the question on if we're going to actually discuss Rex at this convention. I know that there's going to be a lot of discussion about this if it's allowed. And that's going to be the hard part. Is I know there are a lot of upset carriers out there, and I know a lot of them are here at National Convention. But we also have to remember while we're here that we are professionals and we have to follow a level of decorum as we're discussing this stuff. We need to have the passion within us, but we need to project the professionalism that is the rural craft and what we are as rural carriers. We're upset at management. We're upset at management.
Jen,
We're upset. What?
when does Dr. Miracle speak?
I didn't see
Doesn't
that.
he
I
have a
believe it's part of
presentation tomorrow?
I think it's part of the handshaking ceremonies that they have Tuesday.
I don't remember seeing
Okay.
him in
For
the
some reason, I
program.
thought someone said something about tomorrow.
Well, let me
Kristen,
look.
you have the book there in the bag, right?
Is it the State of the Union address tomorrow?
Well,
I believe the State
I
of the
don't know.
Union
I
is
think
tomorrow.
it's just before the State of the Union.
I'm looking.
Well, whatever happens, he's going to be grilled by a lot of people, I'm guaranteeing, if they open up questions to him. Not just me. I know several carriers that want to step up and ask questions that are delegates. So hopefully they allow us to have questions and answers with Dr. Miracle. I'm hoping they allow us to ask questions of Mr. DeJoy when he shows up.
Me.
I'm hoping-
Me.
Well,
Oh, me too. Because
Well,
I
I
have a
can
very,
tell you-
very important question to ask him.
you better be
one
right
that-
up the mic, because
I'll be right
last,
next to the mic.
last year he through, what was it, 20, 30-minute time slot. You talked for 20, 25 of it, and then opened it up for questions. And the second one was a woman who got very upset in tears, discussing about the horrible conditions in her individual office. So, and then he ran out of time. His handler ushered him off. So,
Well, as soon as he steps up to the mic to talk, I'll step up to my mic and wait. And I will be. We're gonna try to position me with the state of Michigan as close to the mic as they can get me.
well, Michigan will be front and center because you're the host state, which means you on either side of your aisle should be a microphone
Yep.
center.
Yep. There's I believe it's mics 2 and 3 will be in the area where I'm going to be at. So I'll just figure out which one I want to sit at. A beautiful little setup they have here at the DeVos Center, and it looks really nice, really well organized. I actually spent some time talking with one of the stage hands that set everything up for it. So it was really nice to learn all the information of behind the scenes of what's going on here on the technical aspect of it. Big technical guy here. And just seeing how everything's laid out and set up for everything. I saw all the booths that are set up for everybody. And of course, they put all the candidates that are not on the board that are running for office in the same area. So they're all right together. So you don't have to travel here, travel there for candidates. They're all in one exact spot. So if you're here at National Convention, there's going to be a booth there where you can actually run into us. So make sure you come check out the booths in the little room they have them set up in, because we'll be there. And if not, find us on the floor.
Anything else tonight, guys, or are we going to wind this down for this evening?
I think I'm ready to wind it down.
All right. There's one thing posted right here for those that don't know who is Dr. Miracle. Dr. Miracle is one of the 3 engineers that worked on the RX system. He is the union engineer. He is still on retainer by the union. I did not see him listed in the program, but that doesn't mean anything at this point. So, yeah, that's who Dr. Miracle is. He is the union's appointed engineer that worked on the RX.
He's instrumental in supporting the union side of the REX system. We can't blame him for all of this. He was involved in the engineering aspect of it, just creating the program, creating the system that it operates on through the information that he got from the union and from USPS. A lot of people want to turn around and make him the bad dog on this, but he's just an engineer. He's just a programmer, a creator of systems. The bottom line of this all is it comes down to 3 different parties in this failure of this, and that is management, the union, and carriers themselves. And I hate saying it like that, but part of that is carriers not getting the information, and if they got the information, not actually using that information. But I've seen over the past couple of months, a lot of carriers have been doing what they need to do with the REX program. And that is the most important thing, is stepping up, learning what you need to do, and applying what you need to do. So I'm hopeful, just like I said last episode, that with this next count, a lot of carriers are going to see improvement on their evaluations. So remember, this is a calm, peaceful, passionate environment, and we're going to get through this safely, securely, and professionally.
I just wanted to add to what James is saying. Keep in mind, Dr. Miracle was the union's engineer. The post office had an engineer, and then there was a third one as a neutral party that created the system.
All right, Josh, I'm going to have you give your final thoughts and comments first. Go ahead.
I'm glad everybody made it there safely. For those of you that are working through this week, couldn't get off or unable able to for whatever reason, be safe out there. It's still hot. I haven't looked at what the forecast going forward is for this week in my area, but make sure you're hydrating. Not only just hydrating, make sure you're eating also, because just the fluid, just the water or Pedialyte or electrolytes, whatever you're drinking, Gatorade, sitting in your stomach, it's going to slosh around, and that's not going to be well either. Don't get overwhelmed. If you do, take a step back, take a deep breath, step back in. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough week, whether you're working or whether you're here at National Convention. And the biggest thing you can take away from any of this is that we are one union, and every carrier that is stepping up to do the right thing when it comes to the contract, writing resolutions, coming to National Convention as a delegate, even coming to the National Convention as a non-delegate. You're making a difference in this union by stepping up and doing something for the union, for your brothers and sisters in the craft. It's going to be a very tough National Convention for all of us involved. And it's not just the fact that we're going to be working long hours at this. It's also the fact that we're dealing with very, very passionate individuals from all states in one location. So even though I'm from Michigan, my brother or sister from New York, or my brother and sister from Arizona will have the same passion I do for this national convention. And we all just need to make sure that our passion is directed in a positive, professional way. And for those of you that are working and listening to us talk about this on the route, I wish you the best. Like Josh said, don't drink your fluids too fast on the route. And if you start feeling the effects of heat sickness out there, sip cold water. Don't down it. Sip it, because if you down it too fast, you can actually shock your system, and that makes things worse. Take care of yourself. Take care of what you need to do, and make sure you make it home every day.
Bill, you're up.
Ladies and gentlemen, every Sunday we get together and put this podcast together for information to better your lives in your work environment. And we do it freely, without pay, because Kristen's too cheap, and without any endorsements. And you know, it's what we do voluntarily, you know, because we see benefit to our efforts, okay? I just want to thank everybody who's here in Grand Rapids, because we are on our second Overflow Hotel. The participation for this national convention is off the charts. And these people also deserve a hand, because they're not giving up several hours on a Sunday. They're giving up a week of leave, annual leave, sick leave, LWOP, whatever they're utilizing to be at this convention. They're using their own time here to be here and represent you. And hopefully you've selected people who do represent your views and your aspirations in regards to what this union can be. So my hat's off to everybody who attends these national conventions. You sacrifice a lot on your own, and let's go out and have a good convention. Let's make it steamy, passionate, professional, and just everybody be able to, you know, to walk away with their heads held high and say, you know, we did good for the union, the whole union. And with that, you know, whether you're leaving the convention at the end of the week, whether you're driving your route all week long, everybody be safe. Do your job as best you can. At the end of the day, go home, because you're the most important delivery of the day, and that delivery is made to your family.
Absolutely, guys. We will discuss if we're what's gonna happen and how we're gonna update you guys throughout the week, if possible. We'll post it if we can and will. As far as I know, we'll discuss Sunday because I'm not sure what some people's travel plans are. So we will post it up in the group and on the Facebook page if Sunday's a go or no go. I know I'll be home. I have to work Saturday morning, possibly a double as usual. So I'm counting down. Trust me, I am. She retires at the end of the month. I am counting down. But on that note, guys, if you're working this week, please stay safe out there. Stay cool, stay hydrated, and if you're here in Grand Rapids this week, stop by and say hi, and we'll talk to everybody later.